nature for the 4 Ps: people, planet, purpose, and profit. I'm Swanette, and I'm your host. Welcome to my podcast, Holistic Creators. My name is Swanette, and my guest today is Lindsay Christianson. He is the head of business development and partnerships at the Plastic Bank, where he works to help stop plastic from going into the ocean by providing social change and the co-creator of Plastic Offsets program. He is also the host of the podcast Champions of Change, which is about people making their living, giving to a greater good. Welcome to my show today and being my guest. I'm so happy to have you here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for having me, Swanette. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Lindsay, I would like to ask you, do you have a love affair with nature, which gets you excited to jump out of bed every day and make a change to the world?
Interesting question. Yeah. Do I have a love affair with nature? I don't know if it's an affair as much as just something that's always been there, right? I enjoy being in nature. I enjoy having time there. I feel that's where I'm the most grounded. I work in a role essentially that allows me to help to protect Mother Earth and provide social change in doing so. So that's what makes me bounce out of bed, is the opportunity to make change.
So, but you say you have a deep relationship to nature, and this is a kind of motivation for you helping to protect the oceans from plastic.
Yeah, certainly in a way. I mean, you know, as the Earth, it's the one that we've got and the one planet. So in terms of being able to respect it, of course, yes. I think the moment that really hit home for me was when I started having children and growing our family, and then, you know, the light really goes on and thinks, wow, I have to do something here. I love nature. I want my kids to be able to see that, and other children around the world as well.
So you think you are a role model for your children also to behave in a certain way?
We'll lead by example, yes.
Not just talking, but showing how to behave is very essential. Do you think that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think words can be easily misconstrued. They're very powerful, and if used inaccurately or not very precisely and to the point, they can lose their meaning. So if the words are going to be spoken to be a role model, certainly I've got to follow that up with action.
Have you ever been in this position, being a role model, or was there a time when you have been young or have grown up where you behaved a different way?
Sure. I grew up playing hockey most of my life. So in Canada, hockey's sort of the national sport up there with another one called lacrosse. You know, and hockey I played from about 5 years old till 21, 22 into a junior career and so forth. And as an athlete, you're very focused on playing sports, meshing with your teammates, putting a lot of time into the gym, working out, and having stupid, mindless fun and doing things that are not so role model-y. They're doing things that probably not that inspiring, but fun at that age. So I think you at times have to go through a little bit of young and stupid before you're old and wise.
Yes.
Not to give myself that label, but I think, you know, if I can work towards that trajectory.
And what was your journey, starting as a hockey player and then now being part of this partnership, Plastic Bank? So there is a gap for me, just I can see at the moment.
Well, I grew up in a small ranching town in a province in British Columbia in Canada, where I'm from. And, I was the youngest of 5 children of a split family that came together. So there's a lot of kids, and I was kind of in that observer role. And they definitely needed something to do with little Lindsay. So hockey was the activity. And certainly that became part of my lifeblood and what I was a part of in life. And doing that so much, you're going down a path that's one direction for so long. And when my hockey career, if you want to call it that, was over, it left me at a point of self-discovery and really trying to look and find what was important in my life. And, I had been studying things that I had never explored before after playing sport, like film and arts and things like that. Sort of exploring the degrees that I had never really had exposure to, and that I was always interested in creativity and so forth. So after arts and film and so forth, I had ended up working in that industry for a while, but just really wasn't fulfilled and felt that there was a better way to build a career. And I had went and studied business. And that was a good foundation for building venture, building ideation, how to build business models and profitability. And I did that for 10 or 15 years until it got to a point of really kind of feeling that it was empty and meaningless, and doing a lot of work and career for that next paycheck, or sort of chasing that bigger commission or that bigger salary and so forth. And it was nice to have fun things and have expensive things and so on. But at one point it just got to, I'm doing entrepreneurial things or working in software and technology, and wasn't really working towards a goal that I felt was, serving something bigger than myself. And when it got to that point in my life, I wanted to figure out how I could make change, how I could have an impact, how I could have that feeling, like you mentioned, to be able to bounce out of bed and not have it be an issue to get to work and get started as part of a cause. So I had always liked the idea of business development. I've always been in a sales marketing function, and that's kind of the intersection between the two. And I had come across a company called the Plastic Bank. And with the Plastic Bank, I had created my CV and cover letter, and I actually listened to a lot of podcasts myself. And one of them, a fellow often talks about how to come up with 10 ideas a day, learn how to flex your creative muscles so that when it comes time to share creativity, that you're used to it. And you try and do 10 ideas so that when you get to idea 6 or 7, and you're trying to think, I don't know if I have any more, you make your brain sweat so that you can push it and get more ideas out. So when I had come across the Plastic Bank, I approached the leadership and said, I'd really like to come and be a part of this. I see that you're building your team. Here's 10 ideas for you. Let's get together. And then we, kind of courted each other, I guess, for a couple months. And then, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we pulled the trigger, and I've been working towards stopping ocean plastic ever since.
Well, a great journey. And have there been special influences for you that help you for the transition from, I call it, egocentrism to ecology? So if you start in business, there's always the focus on profit and not on meaning. So,
yeah. When I think about that, I probably think a little bit farther when I was shifting from that mindset of athlete to effectively kind of making it out in the world. Now, I learned a ton of amazing lessons through sport and hockey, but when I really started diving into thought leadership and people that were all about mindset and motivation and carving your path, I started listening to audiobooks and downloading them in my early 20s when they were a little harder to get and before Audible was out, but you could still get access to certain ones. And Wayne Dyer has always been one of my sort of spiritual teachers of helping bring it down to reality, spelling out wisdom traditions in very easy to understand language. He's passed away now. I did have an opportunity to see him speak, but he's one of those folks that, you know, when you're looking for something and you're kind of not sure what to do, it was very helpful for me to get rooted on the ground and have a component of spirituality without religion in there. And that was very refreshing for me, especially at a time in your life when often people are breaking away from that sort of thing that they grew up with. As well, you know, Tony Robbins was a big influencer in me, or for me, in terms of being able to build mindset, how to overcome challenges and so forth. And then, you know, most recently, certainly influencer-wise, going from simply looking at how to get profits and egocentric to a larger platform. Definitely the founder of the Plastic Bank, David Katz. Many influential talks that he's been able to give, moving, touching, inspiring people to become aware of this issue of plastic in the ocean. And that's certainly the one that has now forged this new path for me. So I would have to say those are the three that come to mind.
Mm-hmm. You just said there has been a kind of change also in your mindset. Are now other values for you on the top and in the focus than have been, for example, 20 years ago?
Help me understand. I'm not sure the question.
Oh, okay. I started again.
Yes.
You just said that you had a shift in your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
After you have been influenced by the people you just told me. And was there also a change in your values during that time?
Yes. You know, as I mentioned, I think that for so long, the values were really eat, live, breathe, sleep, hockey. So that's what I valued, right? I valued friendships. I valued sport. I think things like that. As that went on, I valued in my early 20s, early 30s, I was valuing innovation, technology, investment, venture, how to make money, how to get ahead, how to be productive, how to apply all these things to be ultra efficient and effective in the world. And at that time, it was, I think, starting to just get a bit of value creation around wanting to do something in the world, but still not really quite sure what that was. And that was probably starting to peak out in terms of values in early 30s and so forth. And now as I enter my 40s and having a small child, listening to a lot more podcasts, a lot of different audio books, as well as the ones that I was mentioning, that's all about mindset for me. That's all about value creation. That's all about finding things that I align with, finding things on those hard days when, you know, it's going to be a struggle from time to time to get out of bed, you know, but you listen to some inspiring things, or you see some inspiring things, and it helps overcome that. So for me, definitely a value that was created was continuous learning, continuous growth, and being able to help empower other people to make change.
And how can you live these values now in your position you have?
Well, there's a couple of ways, you know. I mean, for us, the Plastic Bank itself is all about stopping ocean plastic. So we go into areas of the world where there is a high density of plastic waste, as well as a high density of people that live below the poverty line making less than $1 a day. And we actually smoosh those two problems together. So we say, here's a number of people that make less than $1 a day that need an opportunity to make money. Well, we can give them an opportunity to collect the plastic bottles, the different waste streams in their countries, and bring it back to certain collection centers that we have. We pay them a premium reward to collect that plastic. We call that social plastic. And then the change that we're able to make in their life is by giving them a premium reward for collecting the plastic. And we've got this great relationship with IBM, who's building out a blockchain platform so that when people bring back their material, they can save it in a digital currency. And effectively, they can save up for things like tuition for their children, get medical care with the return of bottles. They can get a number of different things, access to sport and things like this. So when we make change in the world, we're finding different brands that come on and support these programs by either buying the material that we provide, or they figure out what we call is their plastic footprint, which totals the amount of plastic tonnage they use to make their product. And then they buy a collection credit where we then take that money and we reward collectors to collect plastic. So on both sides, we work with brands to be able to make change, plus the folks in those companies individually that want to be making change. The plastic collection credits themselves are available for organizations and for people and individuals, so people can go to plasticoffsets.com and neutralize a plastic footprint today for the amount of personal plastic that we use, about 84 kilograms a year. And then we call people into that. We invite people to be a part of that, to be able to create change. And I think deep down, that's often what people want to do. They want to create change. They want to contribute. They want to be of service. So that's at the Plastic Bank. And that's what really caused me to want to create the podcast, Champions of Change, for that reason. Is in this world that I work in stopping ocean plastic, we've got lots of industries that we work with and so many interesting people doing interesting things. And sometimes the solutions are simple. Sometimes they're very complex. But in my opinion, being able to share those ideas with the world gives them an empowerment to think like, oh, wait, it's not exactly that hard. It can be complex, but as long as I just get started, I can start making change too. And that's really been how things have transitioned for me, from going from how do I make more money for myself to how do I make change in the world, and then how do I empower people to let them know that yes, you can do this yourself as well.
Okay. When I just have the imagination, I go to India or perhaps a lot of countries in Africa where there is a huge amount of plastic in the environment. And I'm an environmental engineer. I see the plastic everywhere, and it would hurt my heart to see that. So I can understand this kind of trigger that comes into place if you see this huge amount of plastic going into the rivers and then into the ocean. How do you start when you come to that place and want to start your business there?
Well, when we look for a country to work in, what we're looking for is a number of things. It's going to be the high density of plastic as a problem itself. There will also be the high density of people making less than $1 a day. And then there's some requirements around a form of recycling processor. It's usually called a multi-recycling facility, or in the industry they call it a MRF. And these are centers that effectively take plastic in and then they bale it or process it and so forth. So those are the three things that we really need. We hire a local country manager in that country as well to build the relationships with the locals who's of the local culture, to be able to provide the culture connection and be able to make change at that local level, bringing partnerships together as well as people to participate in the programs.
So the people that you bring into the concept are also local people that have a special status in the area, that have also a good relationship to the people that live there, and you need something that processes the plastic and recycles it. Kind of.
Yeah, for our system, yes, that's typically what we look for when we're doing an expansion into a new country. And every country is different, right? So sometimes it's a rural scenario, other times it's an urban setting in mega cities, and each situation is a bit different. So we treat them a little bit differently, but those would be probably some of the similar components.
How do the people react on it if you come with that concept?
Well, the people really like it, because if you think about it, you might have some type of what's called non-formalized collection for recycling in a country that we operate, like Haiti or like the Philippines or like Brazil. But the issue is, if you're making less than $1 a day, and there's yourself, and you live in Haiti, you most likely have a partner, and birth control is not really realized in these countries, so they have 2 or 3 children. And if there's an opportunity to collect plastic in these countries, they might get an opportunity to collect and return plastic where they might get a multiple of 1, which is really not going to be very exciting for somebody making less than $1 a day. When we bring in social plastic infrastructure and collection systems and rewards, they can get a multiple of upwards of 3 or 4 times for the volumes of plastic that they bring back. So now here's a person who can get an opportunity to earn income and make a living wage of $5, $6, $7 a day. And in a place like Haiti, going from less than $1 a day to $6 or $7, you've now entered the middle class and you've been able to transcend poverty. So it would be me putting words in their mouth to say they love it, but we're seeing people that are embracing this as an opportunity, not only for themselves, but to be able to help their families, their elders, ones that are no longer able to work, as well as ones that see this as, it's kind of sad, but some of the elders say, oh, it's too late for myself, but I can start making a difference for the kids. I can start making a difference for my children and start helping with their education. So it's quite welcome. Social change, when you're able to create that, can be quite powerful.
As you can hear in my language, I come from Germany, and there everything is regulated, even how to have to handle and sort plastic or other garbage.
Yes.
And we have a system that came into the country for recycling packages, and also a kind of deposit system for plastic bottles. So everything that is made from plastic has to go into these kinds of systems. And what I mentioned was that during the last 15 years, the amount of plastic has grown. So there was an increase also in the packaging of fruits and vegetables, and not only using glass bottles. Now plastic bottles are used. So the idea behind was to reduce the amount of plastic and bring in the plastic that has been used back into a recycling system. And I would like to hear your opinion. What can happen, or what should happen in a different way, that this system works also as a reduction of plastic?
The question is, how can the plastic be reduced within a German infrastructure like this? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, in infrastructure that you are in. Because on the one hand, it is a project that you have that is recycling the plastic and improving the social status for people. But yes, does it also reduce the amount of plastic that comes into the system and reduces the resources that are needed for producing the plastic? Is there kind of training behind, or changing the mindset, or whatever? I don't know.
Right. Well, it's interesting because, even in Germany, like you mentioned, that's where one of our major partners is, Henkel, the fast-moving consumer good company. And we're in process right now supplying them with social plastic, as well as they've activated collection centers with us in Haiti. So, part of their movement was really around being able to provide more social change, be able to help stop ocean plastic with this issue, and I think really be able to get behind something that they were able to effectively use in a number of ways in the circular economy to help stop plastic from getting in there, find an end use for the plastic itself, and then find a way to help us over time on this journey. This isn't something we would certainly solve overnight. It is going to take a lot of time and a lot of collaborators, right? But in terms of the plastic itself, it would get collected in the country of origin. So, for example, in Haiti, It would get processed in that country as a bale or a flake or a pellet, and then that would get shipped to where their manufacturer is. So with the amount of resources that go into create new plastic, you'd have to mine or extract oil. You'd have to go through the processes of getting into chemicalization, get it into a monomer and into a polymer. There's the sort of business case, okay, virgin plastic or new plastic versus recycled plastic. What does that look like cost effectiveness wise? And then virgin, with the price of oil these days, is cheaper to produce because of the price of oil. But people are looking at it and saying, wow, there's 8 trillion tons of plastic that have been created since the conception of plastic. Do we really need more new stuff to be produced? I think around a very dismal number of that sort of percentage has ever been recycled. So with the plastic that comes into these countries like Haiti, because there's not a really strong collection and system to do something with it, a lot of it just gets collected or entered into rivers and streams and doesn't get collected effectively, and that's how it flows into the ocean. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but as it's imported into the country, it's often just the lack of waste management that causes it to go into the ocean. So when we create the platform to be able to provide that, well, now we've created a circular loop that we can actually close.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit more how the social plastic is used afterwards? You told me Henkel is one of your cooperations.
Sure. So what we do then is we work with different brands who want to be part of making social change. If oceans are important to them, if creating opportunities for people is important to them, if creating educational opportunities or opportunities for women is important, we're able to work with them to say, here's plastic that has been collected and transferred value for people to transcend poverty. And from that action, we're helping prevent the flow. And yes, we work with Henkel. We work with other groups like Marks and Spencer as a retailer out of the UK, a number of their suppliers. They have something called a Plan A, which is their sustainability plan. They were one of the leaders in this area when, for the last 10 years, I think, in social impact has really been that kind of planning phase of sustainability, and now it feels in the last couple of years it's been more people taking action. So we have folks like this that can make it into products itself. That can be packages, bottles, trigger sprayers, caps for your lotions and gels. We have people that are looking to make trash liners, bin liners, hangers. Anything almost that you can make with regular plastic, you can use our social plastic within that. It's used as an additive. So if you think of your, shampoo bottle that you use, 25 to 50% of that material would be social plastic. And then as part of that, the brands that we work with get to build a narrative to say, this is something that we're a part of. This is something that we're doing. And at the end of the day, Swanette, it's not about the brand. It's not about the plastic bank. It's about the people on the ground. It's about the people that need an opportunity, and it's the customers. It's you and I with that decision when we're shopping, and if we're given the choice and one is going to make an impact or one is simply going to be, providing me with a product that's going to shampoo my hair, which one am I going to take? It's a clear choice to me. I think it's becoming a desired choice for more customers and consumers.
And you just told me that people who collect the plastic can be sold in cash money, and they also can use a kind of digital currency. Can you go deeper into how it works?
Sure. So when people bring back their haul of plastic, they get it weighed, they get it, sorted by type of plastic. It gets, assigned its fair value for the material type itself. And then, of course, they can always get the cash. But with the partnership with IBM, we've been building a blockchain platform and app so that people can transact the value of the plastic. It's got value in every bottle of the material itself, and then they can save that. So they can register as a user on an app through a smartphone. You'd be surprised how many people that have no access to clean drinking water regularly still have access to a smartphone or an iPad or kiosk. So when they register, we're able to essentially let them save the value of this digital currency. So it becomes an asset for them as well, where they've got regular collection activity. They're buying items regularly. They can build a small credit rating to get a micro loan against. So this gets tracked in what's called a hyperledger. So effectively, in a blockchain technology, it becomes what's called non-corruptible, and it's probably maybe not the right word, but if it ever gets corrupted, you can go in and find out, right, what's going on. So as this way, it serves as a hyperledger as well as a way for us to be able to track the amount of plastic that comes into the system, and then the amount of different types of rewards that go out when they use digital currency. And the idea behind this is to create more security for people so that they don't have to carry cash, because there's sometimes mafia and things like this involved in waste management situations, as well as being able to provide people essentially a higher purchasing power by using plastic with digital currency instead of cash alone. So that's the draw to that. And then effectively, we're able to use the blockchain itself for a couple of mechanisms, like we said, the hyperledger, the digital currency as a banking system, and the app, and then being able to authenticate our actions as well as what's being proven on the ground to say, this is how many bottles have been collected, this is how many livelihoods have been impacted, and be able to provide those metrics.
Yeah. And what kind of changes do you see, of course, in the environment, but also in the social system, if you have installed this kind of business?
Yeah, well, I think to date there's been over 150 million bottles that have been prevented from going into the ocean. You know, in terms of social change and impact, we've seen a lot of people be able to get a number of different livelihoods increased in terms of being able to support their families. So that's number one. Number two is the impact of that. So there's sort of this, you know, submerged economic benefit for GDP and people being more productive, their children being able to have more opportunities to knowledge and access to education. And then even in the brands and so forth that we work with, we have an opportunity to bring creativity to it as well. For example, with the Henkel relationship, you know, they purchase material and we also work with them on building collection infrastructure. So they have branded some collection markets as well that we have built. They have a home and laundry care, a chemical division, as well as a beauty care division. So if you're familiar with Schwarzkopf brand in Germany, then they have a program which was already existing called A Million Chances. And that's a program which essentially gives a second chance for underprivileged women to be able to have opportunities, either to career, you know, to being able to hone their cover letters and CVs and things like that, and access to opportunities. And within that, Henkel wanted to bring that to their collection centers. So when we built those collection centers for Henkel, we looked at very high density areas where there's a large concentration of women. We looked where there was perhaps a large concentration of children as well, to make it easier for those women and provide a higher reward to support that narrative, where here's an opportunity, to earn, and a little bit more of a sweeter reward for you as well through the Henkel Center. So in terms of creating social change itself, we've been able to see a lot of positive impact on the ground. And now we're you know, able to definitely be providing more and more blockchain authenticated reports and so forth, as we shift from this sort of pen and paper ledger technology in a developing nation to something with blockchain fabric.
Yeah, and you just told me something about, you called it a plastic footprint. I know the carbon footprint, but what is a plastic footprint?
Yes, yes. So as I came on with the plastic bank, you know, one of the things that was important for me was to be able to build other additional streams for companies to get involved. And one of the ways for companies to do that is certainly to buy the social plastic that we mentioned. And then another opportunity is for companies to neutralize their plastic footprint or offset their plastic or go plastic neutral. And in this concept, you're right. It's like carbon, where you have a company that is going to make a product, and the factories and all the trucks and all the transport is going to be spewing emissions. They calculate that emission, and then they determine what their carbon footprint is, and essentially total weight and so forth. And then what they do is invest in projects that have a lesser emission, or they capture a certain amount of emissions. So with that, there's a bit of a neutralization that happens from the delta between those things. So if we move into our world of plastic, we look at what the plastic footprint is. And this is a voluntary collection credit, where the plastic is determined by how much plastic tonnage is used to make the product itself, as well as the packaging itself. And then once we've determined the total weight volume, that's where we determine a plastic footprint currently. We continue to find additional ways for companies to calculate this. And with the plastic collection credit, we provide that opportunity to effectively neutralize each kilogram of plastic in that plastic footprint. So the way that we do this is with the social plastic collection credit. Each credit pays to reward 1 kilogram of collection of plastic from the environment, and it costs 44 cents a piece, and that will reward the collection of 50 bottles from the environment that we distribute to collectors on the ground in the countries that we operate in.
So this is the system inside of the industry, but me as a human being, I also have a kind of plastic footprint. If I go into a shop and buy whatever stuff, or I go into a shop which we have in Western countries that is called without packaging, where you can bring your own bottle or glass and take only the ingredient and not have to buy a kind of a bottle that is made from plastic or something like that. So me as a human being, I can also look at my plastic footprint and can reduce it in this way, or is it only for industries?
Right. No, absolutely. It's for individuals as well. You know, we see industries as those groups that can make large impact kind of right away by effectively engaging us to do plastic neutral programs. But again, it's really about the people. You know, you and I as individuals that often want to step up and make a change and feel helpless. So what can I do? What change can I make? And when there's platforms like this, as I mentioned, people can go to plasticoffsets.com. On average, we've determined that, you know, each individual uses between 84 to 100 kilos of plastic a year. We use the metric of 84, and when people go to plasticoffsets.com, they can actually purchase a subscription to neutralize their plastic footprint annually. And for that, they can essentially go plastic neutral. They can go plastic positive if they would like to do more, be a plastic superhero and do, you know, 3-4 times as much as well. And we'll mail you a certificate as well for the amount that you've been able to extract. So the people, again, the mass of people, I think that when we connect the issue that people are waking up to, seeing these images of plastic floating in Bali and animals suffering and it getting into our food stream and seeing it in plankton and thinking, oh my gosh, these toxins get into all of our food, people want to make a difference. So we've been able to provide this as a platform for people to take action now.
So what is your great impact you want to make, and what kind of legacy you want people to remember about you?
Well, within the plastic bank itself, I would say, we're looking to gather 1 billion people together to help stop ocean plastic. And when we're able to gather 1 billion people, I think that we're going to start getting that exponential effect where we can reach all corners of the planet. So in terms of working as a legacy, I mean, plastic bank, if we put ourselves out of business and, we don't have to pay collection rewards anymore to people to collect plastic, that's not such a bad thing, then problem kind of solved. If we get there in our lifetime, I'll be extremely pleased. That would be incredible. As we grow the plastic offsets business too, I'm happy to be one of the co-creators of that. I'm happy to see large multinationals coming behind that. So in terms of a legacy for those elements, I would love to be able to see, every corporation have some type of a collection credit contribution. And as far as a personal legacy, really is to have an open heart and to be able to affect and make change in the world.
So what is your vision about the future?
Well, my vision is, I believe that we're tracking towards success. I'm not so overly optimistic that I'm thinking, okay, great, we got it all figured out. I am very optimistic, and there's a little bit of just, there's the tentativeness where you're wondering, oh, have we got this? Is there an opportunity to turn back? Can we undo climate change and all these things? So I do believe that as individuals, we can't do it alone. I think that when we do gather together and we bring our collaborations, we bring our innovations, we bring togetherness, then we have an opportunity to figure it out. I don't think we're there yet, which is where some of the tentativeness comes in, I think, with just kind of current world events, let's say, and certain leadership around the world. But that's also waking up the masses of people to how you do not act in the world, and how people are starting to take a stance with ethics more. People talk about millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha as being lazy and all that. And I guess I just don't buy it. I believe that they're probably the ones that are really going to be the ones turning us towards this cause implementation. They're the ones that are going to be really coming up with some interesting, innovative ideas that are going to be most meaningful for them, because I think that they've got the tools, they've got the lens, they've been able to look at change being an important thing and cause being an important thing from the get-go, from a business, from an organization, not just a nice tack on that's nice to have, as part of what your business does. So I'm positive, and I am an internal optimist. I am also a realist and believe that we have some work to do.
Of course, it will not come in a second, but it will be a process. And I think what you just said, the children that are now grown up, I don't know if you are in the spiritual world, we call them indigos or crystal child, that have this deep connection to nature. And if you look at them from the outside, they look sometimes very special, and perhaps they look lazy, but they have so much inside of them, and they recognize so much around them that these children can become the new leaders for the change. What do you think about that?
Yes, absolutely. And, you're starting to see, I think, a lot of the younger generations come through and say, well, I don't need to work at the top 4. I'm okay being happy first and figuring out that instead of chasing dollars. And I think that there's still going to be people that do that, but I think there'll be a larger concentration of folks where it's going to be purpose first. It's going to be cause first. It's going to be about creating happiness and connectedness first. And money becoming definitely a tool. Maybe there's going to be some millennial wake up Gen Z sort of thing when they're in their 40s and, you know, some massive shift. But I think in the early get-go when they're forming their careers and so forth, using the tools more powerfully, like social, using them as a voice, using them as something that they can connect the rest of the world, I think that we'll start to see more of, a lot more of.
Yeah. What is about your children? Well, you said you have one child.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you support him to bring in this new mindset and change into the world?
Well, I think it's probably just leading by example these days. I mean, he's 2.5, so he's still got, you know, dinosaur reptile brain, right? He's barely can control his hands. So not to say that that can't be, I guess, laying a foundation with actions, right? I mean, he can certainly mimic a lot of the words that come out of my mouth, so I can choose those words as ones that could be cause-based or purpose-based, so that starts to become perhaps a part of his vocabulary a little bit more, instead of any of the frustrated four-letter words that sometimes come out of my mouth.
Yes. And have there been any obstacles in your journey to become that person you are now?
Certainly. You know, overcoming issues of self-doubt, overcoming issues of wondering if I can actually do anything, you know, when times are a little bit tougher and you're doing an entrepreneurial sort of thing, you're wondering, oh, should I just get a real job? Is everybody right? Am I just crazy? And things like this. So, you know, you deal with that and you know, what you learn. And of course, yourself doing a lot of interviews as well, I think you just start to realize that that's the norm. You know, everybody that does a public speaking thing feels nervous. Right. I mean, everybody that feels a little bit of anxiety when they're going to do something that's something they've never done before is going to create perhaps some anxiety. I think the interesting thing around that is learning that anxiety and nervousness are often the same chemical cocktail that's being released when you're excited. So being able to tell myself when I'm nervous or have something speaking, it's like, I'm just excited. I'm just, you know, and it helps me get grounded in my body and so forth. But yeah, self-doubt and some of that personal resistance where, you know, you have a fear sometimes of putting yourself out there. I think that the self-doubt comes from probably a universal feeling that people have, which is trying to look good all the time or avoid looking stupid, right? So within that, I've tried less to be looking good all the time and get rid of that material exterior polished look as much and just bring a real person to the table. You know, I think that becomes welcome, and I think that it's important to be able to do, because it kind of crosses that line of work-life balance, and I'm really starting to see this blend come together of it. Look, it's life. I work and I have life and I do this thing, and I don't have a separation or a distinction of the guy that I bring to the table in life to meet you, Swanette, and then the guy that I bring to the table in business, right? Why is that different? So that's been an area that I think self-doubt crept in the early phase, because I thought I had to appear another way to the world. And I've been able to overcome that by being more authentic and realizing that, heck, that's all everybody really wants, is just to get to know the authentic person, get to know the authentic me, get to know the authentic Swanette, not the polished Facebook, you know, best of reel that everybody gets to see.
Yeah, that's so true. And you just said feeling fear or anxiety is also meaning being not in your comfort zone anymore, or at the edge of the comfort zone. And that's the place where you can learn. If you're inside the comfort zone, it's like sitting on the sofa, nothing will happen. So
exactly.
You have to be at the edge of the comfort zone, and then you can grow and start learning.
That's right.
Yeah. And so also, yeah, being authentic. So I think we have a lot of education that focuses on things that don't right, and where we make mistakes, and figuring out that we are the best we can be, and contribute to other humans and to the environment. That is essential.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you now have some tips for my audience, how they can become a holistic creator, what can you tell them?
A holistic creator, you know, I think that one of the realizations that has been coming up for me is that often people are trying to build a business and figure out how to create purpose around it after. And that can certainly be approach. I think as an entrepreneur, often we're trying to find these little niches, you know, that reveal themselves through market tests and so forth. So there's this delicate balance, I think, of being able to uncover opportunity that, you know, can make a sustainable business as a business. But then there's also the opportunity from the get-go to connect with people when purpose is aligned from the beginning. And if we're looking at these people and the millennials and the generations that we just talked about, it's an opportunity to have that conversation with them, because if it's just purpose and saying, here's our product and we're going to be able to, you know, give a certain amount of money to this charity over here with each, you know, sale, that can work. But I think it's more powerful when you build it into a conversation so that you can have a brand that you put into the hands of your customers that effectively is going to turn them into a megaphone for you, that they're so touched, moved, and inspired that they're going to spread the message for you like wildfire. And when you come with a purpose and a cause that's aligned with this group, or with the group that has this, and you start having that conversation, that's where I think the real value is. So if you can start building a conversation with people right away, even if you're thinking of getting into a business and you've got an email list or a social list, obviously be respectful of the new regulation with privacy in place, but find a way to do a form of market tests. I always see people that want to go spend, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to go make a business work, but they haven't really tested it yet or done a simple validation thing. And it can be an easy way to start building that dialogue with people that could be your potential customers, really getting to the heart of the matter of what they care about. And in that, you know, you find sort of pain points that are pain issues for them that they care about, as well as finding things that might really make you angry. And often it's those things that make you angry that you're not going to stand for anymore, that's that moment where you're going, somebody's going to do something about this, and that's going to be me, right? And I think that that's when it happens. So those are some bundled up cluster of ideas, less of a tip, I think, of how people can use some probably tools that they have already to get started if they're looking to do something like this. And the key word, getting started. Do something, fail forward, get some feedback, because like you said, nothing is going to happen really from the couch if there's not some type of action being taken.
Yeah, that's great. If people are now interested in all that you said and want to connect to you, can you give me the internet links?
Yeah, sure. The socials and all that. Yeah. I'm on Twitter at LCC888, easily found on Facebook as well, Lindsay Christianson. The website of the company is plasticbank.org, and people that are interested in neutralizing a plastic footprint can certainly go to plasticoffsets.com. That'll lead you to a specific page on Plastic Bank. And love to be able to connect with people with Champions of Change as well, so they can check out championsofchange.co.
Thank you very much. I will write down the URLs in the description of this podcast so people can find it easily and get in contact with you. So,
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your insights and being my guest on the show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swanette. Thank you for the time and being able to be persistent to get a talk together. Thank you for who you are and being a holistic creator yourself and doing what you do. It's important work, and I'm happy to have had a conversation with you.
Yes, thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.